What's happening, guys? It is Saturday, January 6th. I'm going to make a real quick video for some stock ideas and just covering what we got into last week and how those are going. I don't have a whole lot of new ideas except for one because I do expect a bounce. However, Monday during the day will probably be another down day. We have some unfinished business I want to talk about. Let's start out with news and see if there's any news that's going to move the markets. January 6th. Now, the following week is going to be a holiday. Typically, we trade up into holidays, so expect Thursday and Friday to be a little bit bullish, up days maybe. So here's kind of the theme over the last few months. When there is no news, the market does kind of go down. So Monday, there's no news, so we could see a downward move. Consumer credit comes out at 3 p.m. Central. So that could, as the market's closing, turn the market around. And then Tuesday, for Turnaround Tuesday, might see an up day as well. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. CPI on Thursday. That's going to move the market, followed by PPI. So Thursday might be a good day not to trade. We will look at some numbers. But again, I said swing trading's not going to follow through as much through January. Everything's kind of zigzaggy. So we'll see how it goes. First thing is first. You heard it here first. Stanley, Black & Decker. This is a monthly chart. As you can see, they are at some serious lows, COVID lows. For a long-term swing, now you'd have to leave yourself a big stop loss. But from our COVID low, 71.50, they came down and they never did quite break that. So you could say hold 71.50 as your stop as a long-term investment, SWK. Why do I say that? Because of the Stanley Cup memes everywhere. So let's dig into this one. So what do we see here? Now, before the news, we saw somebody is buying, right? We have a trend line, a simple trend line here. Again, this is the first time I'm looking at this stock. So let's say here's the trend line. It's held marvelously, and it's just something that nobody's watching. SWK, nobody's watching, but somebody is loading. Every time we get in, it's putting higher lows and higher highs. So what is the expectation? To put in another higher high. It's an expanding megaphone. We will probably see a large gap up on Monday over this 100 area, probably over this top, and at least squeeze to 112, if not open above the channel on Monday. So pay attention to this, because if you trade shares, you're going to want to wake up at 3:30 in the morning and trade some shares. Here would be our first resistance. Let's mark this out here on daily resistance. This area would be our first resistance area, 118.50. We have a gap that is could potentially be filled. We'll say the bottom of the gap is at 130, 131. The top of the gap is 136. So, and I know this sounds crazy, but if we open above this expanding megaphone, look for a retest of that and a push up to 136. From 95 to 136. That could be a humongous move. We do have a gap in this area as well. I just saw that here. So that's a pretty miraculous gap that we could fill. So actually getting above this breakout area right here 105, over 105, which is likely it could open over 105 on Monday. Okay, 105 to 118. That would be your target, at least to the trend line, if not all the way up to 118. But I'm dead serious. SWK, Monday morning, before the market opens, if you want to trade shares, at the market open, you want to look for, depending on where it opens, you want to look for this 104.50 area to hold. If that 104.50 area holds, that's where you want to buy calls to a push to 118. SWK, you heard it here first. Okay. So, let's look at the market here. One thing that nobody's really talking about, we have this breakout area here that every time they would get above this, they would eventually push it off. We'll look at the weekly here. They would push off of this area. And as you can see, we got above it and we've failed. We've gotten back below it. So you could assume SPX 4720 or 472 SPY is going to be a resistance area if we come back up to that on Monday. So look for a potential to move lower this week until CPI. That could be too. We just continue to push lower for the next 3 days after a bounce on Monday or Tuesday. Look for another push lower for CPI, or if we're at 472 on CPI day, you could lotto some pushes lower, and your target would be the bottom of this breakup candle right here. If you look over here, we can see very large moves between 460 and 470 in the SPY. We can see a $10 move in a day. Now this is a weekly chart, but still, it's possible. It's happened multiple times. If you look over here, the way this moves, you can see how this was resistance here. And so it could likely be support. So 4,600 will likely be a bounce area. But look how quickly this moves between 470 and 460. Right? This is SPX, but same idea. SPY, SPX, 100-point move or a $10 move in SPY can move very quickly through this area because there's little resistance. Actually, now that I'm looking at the daily chart, now you saw me, these lines were not on here before I started this video, right? Well, look at this. They actually already came in and tested that. So they do not have to run another test of this number. They could potentially find resistance at the top of this breakup candle. And for those of you who are interested in futures, I'll just throw it in here together. 4,700 on SPX. That would be ES. See how this works? Look at this. First of all, yeah, so they've already retested that area. So they do not have to do that. So 4760 in ES, if you're interested in futures, that would be a very low risk, high reward area to short from. And then getting over 4760, you're going to try for this breakup candle low, or high, which is going to be 4788, 4780, 4790. So potentially we could, if we get above that, we could see a squeeze above. Now, initially my idea was, if you go look at the Dow Jones, initially my idea was we're going to have another push higher off of this. So what would be interesting to me is if we push down SPX to 4,600, SPY 460, 458 on SPY, 458, let's say 458 on SPY. Let's push down to 458 on SPY and then get a rip back in the other direction like this. If you kind of look at the way this market moves, so the Dow Jones kind of just goes like real, like kind of all over the place, right? But the thing I was looking for, where did it go? It was basically like this. So here we had this huge move up, and then we had a large move down, and then we had a rip in the other direction, swept these highs, and then that was the top of the market, like the top, right? It's very possible that we have a similar move in the market, and I'm saying this because everyone is expecting, what I was going to say on SPY, everyone is expecting another high, like a new high, right? And they're going to break 4,800. What would make more sense to me, and I'm just making this up, but what would make more sense to me is to break this area. So they haven't really retested this. They came up short of this area. Coming up short of an area usually means they're going to break it when they come back down. See how this was support? They came up and bounced. They came up short and bounced. That means when they come back down, the people that had orders here are going to cancel their orders. They don't want to buy here. They want to buy down here now. They want to buy in this prior breakout area. They want to buy at the bottom of this breakup candle. This is now the support. So what I'm saying is, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we could have a very sharp move down before we get another leg higher. And then ultimately, when everybody is expecting another leg higher, we just simply run another test, sweep the highs, and then start 2024 bear trend. Okay? Now, obviously, if we get back up here and this turns into support and we start pushing up higher, then I'm wrong and whatever. But here's all I was going to say is, it's very possible Monday through Wednesday we do see a continuation lower because everyone's expecting a bounce. They're probably going to push it lower, right? And then when everybody says, well, that's a failed breakout, they failed this area, right? Then they're going to rip it up in the other direction. So this is like 2-3 weeks 40 chests going, but look for a continuation lower than maybe a CPI or something. They'll rip it up in the other direction. Keep that in mind. When you feel like it's failing down here, likely they're going to bounce it, because here's this. People might say this is a failed breakout, but right below it, what is this? This area, this whole area is going to be from anywhere from here to here. It's a huge area, but anywhere in this area is going to be support. Right? That would make a ton of sense to me, to shoot down and then shoot right back up, sweep the highs, and then maybe chop around for a few days and week, and then February will continue going lower. But for right now, For right now, keep that in mind. We're going to have another move lower because we came up short. So nobody trades Dow Jones. Let's look at the SPY. I said 458. Let's look at this. And here's the deal. If I'm wrong and we do bounce and get higher, then that's extremely bearish because we shouldn't be doing that. We need to pull back into support area. So I have this on my chart. This is from a couple weeks ago, but so this would be the breakout area, right? We had resistance here, resistance here. The expectation is going to be that that is support. And so we'll do the same chart here. So we ran a test of this breakup high, and that turned into resistance, which means they're likely going to push lower. Our number for a buy down here was 465.25. You can go back a couple weeks and watch my videos, and I said that was an important number. We added that number to our chart. That would have been support if they came down to it. However, and it may still be, but what I'm trying to say is we have another leg lower coming, right? So the failed breakout area would be 459.45. Put that number on your chart, 459.45. When we break underneath that, now we have numbers at 455.11. That looks more like support to me actually than this breakout area. So anywhere between 459.50 and 454 is going to be a bounce area, and it's going to be hard to tell And we might have a couple days of chop like this before we break also. So keep that in mind. We could move up a little bit on Monday, look for another rejection. If we move up on Monday, then we could swing puts and move down to 455 to 459 area. That area, if we get there before CPI, then like if we're here on CPI, look for a rip down to 440, 454, and then buy calls to swing into the last few weeks of January and see our rip your face off rally again, where everybody was wrong and wrong twice because they were trying to buy this and that went down. Now they're trying to short this and it goes up, and we can see that 480 area. So keep that in mind. So ultimately I'm long. Let's cover some ideas that we had last week. I said NVIDIA was a short idea, and we had a move short, and check out 473.87. It tagged that number and then ripped the other direction. You could still consider that one short after they fill this green candle, but look where they closed, right at one of our numbers, 490.43. Let's see intraday if that was important. And you can go fact check me and look at my videos from last week if you think I'm just making these numbers up. These numbers were here before the stock moved to it. But as you see, there was some resistance and fighting at this number. Ultimately, they broke over it. There was resistance there, and it became support and support. And we closed above it. So look for, possibly Monday morning, if you want to ride shortly, and move back up to sweep these highs, hit that resistance area again, and then you can swing puts into Monday afternoon, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and possibly lower because tech stocks are weaker than the rest of the market. And like I said, I was waiting down here. What was that day? See, this was my buy area on, was that Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. This was my buy area. I thought they were going to come down, tag that, and that would be very bullish. And it was. Maybe my number's off a little bit. It did work. But I still think that this is where the institutional buyers are. So they're going to want to run another test of that area and see if that works. That would also make sense if this is a trend line. Let me double check myself though. Yeah, see this trend line? It came up short of that trend line, so they're going to want to run another test of that area. Look for 474 and lower. Generac, and there was some other, like MDB, it did the same thing as NVIDIA, but actually it's weaker. Look at that. I missed that one. Oh well. GNRC is our long position. GNRC. We got this one a little early, but check out how these numbers work. So we opened below this number, and of course they immediately bought that up. They came back in the end of the day, and guess what number held? Right? The numbers work, guys. 1694. Go to your 4-hour chart or even your daily, and you'll see where I get the numbers from. It was the bottom of this breakup candle. That was our number, 1694. So anyway, if you have more questions about where I get my lines from, I can send another video. But GNRC looks good to go higher on the weekly chart. They're going to want to run another test of this breakdown candle. And we're in 125 calls, but I think they're going to run a test of this 127 area before they find any resistance. They could move back up quickly. As you see how bullish these candles were. Just green, 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 right? There's definitely institutional buyers from 116 all the way up to 130, and their target is going to be this 150 area. So GNRC still looks good. Obviously, our stop is just going to be below 116. If they break that, they're going to run a test of this, and we'll have to give it a few more weeks before they get back up here. But ultimately, the reason I'm bullish on this is you kind of had this area of support, and they broke below it and immediately ripped up above it, right? So anybody that wanted to sell got out. All that's left are buyers, basically. And you have some sellers, with the whole market turned down. Of course, it's going to go down, but ultimately that looks like a buy area to me. And, like over here, look at this. Oh, man, look at this. Look at this move. Just from here, from these candles, look at this. From here to here. To 180. Now this is, again, a weekly chart, but this is why it's a long-term investment. But we should see 180. We could raise our target to 180. We should see a move to 180 off of this prior pivot, which is interesting that we, had that number there, which was a 4-hour bottom here, which was also prior resistance here. And now it's going to be support here, right? Just like this move here. Support off of this area up to here. Support off of this area up to here. And potentially a move to 180. JAN6, long. I still like it. ENVX, I still like it long. It's struggling. It struggled with the market, but ultimately it just came back to rerun a test of this area, which was, again, the IPO support. IPO support. They came down. Every time they get underneath this area, there's institutional buyers, which means there's nothing wrong with this stock for long-term investing. Every time it gets below $12.40, it's on sale, and they buy it. They buy it. They buy it. Buy it. Buy it. So let's buy it. Right? Long-term investing, ENVX. Expectation is short-term 24, long-term hundreds of dollars. I don't know. Long-term investments on ENVX. Apple, we talked about Microsoft and Apple. Let's look at this one. So there was some news that came out that shot this down. The news was a downgrade from $161 a share to $160 a share. Do you really think that's going to make the market move that much? Let's take a look at our charts here. So we had a major dump, gap down pre-market, and then a sell-off, which, the rest of the market was selling off as well. There's still some investors wanting to get out from December and, reset up their stuff. Now they've come up short of my 179.21 line, but it's very possible that would be support. So here's your buy areas, your 1, 2, 3, 179.20, 160, 176.40, and 172.90, 280. That would be your all-in long. As you can see here, we had a huge move off of this line all the way up to here, right? You would expect a similar move. My computer's only like 15 years old. So, anyway, you get the idea. I would kind of like a pullback all the way down here to 173 before going long on it. But you can watch these other ones just to see if there's some reversal. But I really like 173. I had an alarm on there at one time. Let's reset that alarm here. This is going to be a long idea, right? I said I'm kind of bearish the next few days, but we could have a serious move down and then buy it, because that news is just a trick. Oh, I don't know. Whatever. Just remember 173. Okay. And then Microsoft. Someone asked if they should go long on Microsoft. I don't like this yet. I would like. They actually closed. Looks like they closed right at or below the Trend line, I would like another test of this 351. I doubt they're going to get there in a couple weeks, but we could see. You could potentially short it, but I don't like it short either. The short would have been up here, and if we can get back up to 372, you could try to short that one for another move lower. Your buy area, I have a line here, but really you got pretty strong support right in this area. So getting below 361, that could happen in a week, right? 367 to 361, that might be a buy area, right? They shouldn't break this candle. Let's see if there's a reason for them to break the candle. There's not really a reason for them to break that candle. I mean, if you look at this right here, 1, 2, 3, 4 buyers, that's pretty strong buying support, right? So if they were to get back down, to this area, 361, that would be a good place to buy, I think. I like Apple better than Microsoft, but I might be biased too. What other questions do you guys have? Another long-term idea I don't know if we talked about is uranium. This one we talked about a year ago, and I just kind of forgot about it. But it did break out of this area, and it's continuing higher. Now we kind of have this support area right here where we're at. We swept the bottom of this candle and we closed above it. So URA looks like it could have another move higher. Actually, yeah, I like this one. Let's look at, just kind of some basic technical analysis stuff. We had a run up to here that became resistance. They pulled back probably about 30%, like Fibonacci numbers probably. They broke above it, consolidated, they're moving back down. They're running a test of this breakout area. That's all they're doing. They're holding this breakup candle. So if you're swinging it, your stop would be a daily candle close, or I'm sorry, weekly. A weekly candle close below this candle, which is, the low is 2686. $26.85. Let's do that. If we close a week below that, then they might pull back to this trend line again, so you can close your position. But ultimately, I like URA as a long-term investment again. So keep your eye on that. Ultimately, I mean, look at this. Look how much room this has. We're at the bottom, like right now, right? And it's just now breaking out. So nuclear. So that's going to be part of the future, right? We had some major breakout volume on the quarterly candle. So that means some serious investors are coming into this, and you're going to move to 63, 98, and 133. Ultimately, a test of the high, but that might be a few years from now. But keep an eye on that. One we haven't looked at in a while is clean energy, ICLN. Let's look at this one together. Now it's a quarterly chart. Let's go to the weekly. It is kind of turning around. Might not be time for clean energy yet. Okay, so let's do this together here. We had the high of the close of this candle right here, right? So they are buying it. Interestingly, a little closer. Yeah, so they pushed up here. They might run a test of 14 again, and you could eventually get into that one long. Some some solar stocks. That's not valid. I don't know why that was there. Yeah, check this out. Look at this, guys. JKS. So we were in a downward channel, right? Came back, it became support, continued to sell off, and it's still support. So ultimately, JKS, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at this one. Look at this one. Let me zoom out even more. Look at that. Golly, we missed that. 1, 2, 3. And then bam, support. Bam, support. JKS might be an interesting one to go long on. So that's the weekly. Last week obviously was red, but let's mark off our weekly support areas and let's see if we can find a position in JKS. So clearly our weekly support candle is going to be right here. Anytime they got below this candle and they started to buy it back up, right? So that should be a support area. That's going to be at $30, the $30 area. Let's go into our 4-hour channel and let's find our exact number. Figured if I do this with you real time, maybe it would help you understand where I get my numbers from. Okay, so this number, we're going to move it a little bit. See where this candle reversed? It went up and then immediately reversed. That's a number. So the high of this candle, or no, I'm sorry, not the high, the close. The close of this candle is 31.67. That's going to be our number. They get below it, they shoot it up, get below it, shoot it up. They run another run. When they come back to that number, they're going to hold that number. So 31.67, if you look over here, this was also resistance. The final resistance before they get above it, that's going to be the final support. So 31.67, put that one on your chart for a long. Kind of long-winded. If you guys have any other questions, shoot me a message. I talked about futures. I will share my numbers real quick for NQ. So NQ, this was our number, 16,399. It did not hold, as you can see, which means, and they closed a candle below it, which means it's invalid. So, I mean, it's still valid during the day, but not like valid. What was interesting to me is they came up short of this number, which that was a peak right there. This number was 16,328. The fact that they came up short of that before they bounced it, that means they're going to break it. So Sunday night, you might look for a push lower to that 328 area, and then getting below that, then we're going to start having some serious problems, because then that is a failed breakout. And when that becomes a failed breakout, then we can have quick sell-offs. Like, I'm talking quick. Here's our next support area. 15,400. Like a 1,000-point move. Okay? This is why I'm bearish on NVIDIA and MDB or whatever. But your next number's lower. You know, you've got some major support in this area as well. So we could see a very fast move down to 1,600. 1,600 and below. If they get much below it, I don't know if they're going to shoot all the way down here unless it's on CPI or FOMC news. But, you know, anywhere in this candle, you're not going to want to be short anymore below 1,600. It's just not a high probability trade, and you don't want to be in it. But potentially breaking 16,328, you want to run a test of 16,020, and that's where you're going to want to exit and take your profit before they break these lows, because you don't know where it's going to bounce. It could bounce anywhere in this area on this big candle here. They're going to defend. So NQ short. If you want to look at gold, gold is interesting to me. We're right at a number 2051. That's kind of middle of nowhere. So let's not touch that. Let's not touch that. More importantly, let's look at what the dollar is doing. So on a weekly chart, if you zoom out here, you can see that anytime they get below 102, they buy it up. They bought it up here, they bought it up here, they bought it up here, they're buying it up again. So the expectation is the dollar should move higher. When the dollar moves higher, then stocks move lower, right? Here would be the ultimate test. Because if you come up here and get rejected, then that's good for the stock market. That would be a prior rejection area, and like we did here, that was good. That pushed the market up, right? We had a huge reversal here, but it didn't seem to hold either. And again, that was an area of resistance, this 104. But they probably do want to run another test at 104. So keep that in mind. If this runs up to 104, then the market is going to go down. And then if we get a rejection at 104, then the market can bounce and go higher. So I like to watch DXY. One I don't really pay attention to as much is the VIX. But let's take a look at our numbers and see if it's telling us anything. So the VIX is interesting because, and this is what really propelled the move in 2023, is if you go to a weekly chart, this started in 2017, and this trend line has held since 2017. Let's go to logarithmic. You can see it better. I'll end the video after this. Maybe. If I can even get this to work. So 2017 started this bull trend on VIX. That's why it's been choppy since 2017 all the way to COVID crash, right? It held there in 2017, it held there in 2019, and it held there in 2021. So we had a pullback in 2022, obviously. So you can go look at long-term investing. You can see what happened in 2017, 2019, obviously the COVID crash, and the end of 2021, what happened. So now, this is important because we have broken below the 5-year trend, or even more than that now, like 7-year trend. We've broken below that trend. We came up, and then that area became resistance. They got above it, but still, the idea is they broke it, they retested it, and they failed. So the expectation was to continue lower for 2024. And potentially you could even see these $9 areas. Low volatility means not a lot of scare, not a lot of crazy buying, just ho-hum trading and investing. But look at these numbers. Low of this candle was 1181. Look where our line was, 1180. Right? And then it bounced, and we've had a pullback since for the last few weeks. So if the VIX holds this area, which it doesn't look like it's going to, but if it does, if this was a trend line that flips to support, that would give more evidence. If this bounces on Monday, that would give more evidence of a pullback in the market while VIX is going higher, right? See how this worked? It was a failed breakdown, and then they got back above it. I mean, it was a breakdown, and then it failed. It got back above it, and then it shot up higher, and we had a huge dump in the market and a huge jump in VIX. Same thing could happen right here. This could become support, and we see another push up to the 17 area. So if you want to play VIX before CPI, you could get some 17 calls, and I think they expire on Wednesdays, so you have to get a week out. But potentially we could see a move to 17 in the VIX for a cheap long swing on the VIX. Again, if they are closing below this, then it might not matter. But that's about all I got to say. So keep an eye on Thursday. We'll have some movement in the market, and again on no news, the trend has been down days on no news. So let me know if you have any questions, and send me stock ideas, and don't forget Stanley, SWK, on Monday morning. Quote me on it. If it's not gapped up on Monday, if it's not gapped up and it's above 99, I will be shocked. So, anyway, have fun.